Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. We are very happy to welcome on this auspicious Jayanthi day, Swami Vivekananda Jayanthi, to Ramakrishna Mat, Baswangudi, Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj, the President, Advaita Ashrama, Mayavati with its branch in Kolkata. Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj will be delivering the address today on this auspicious day of Swami Vivekananda Jayanti. Swami Shuddhidhanandaji is a monk of the Ramakrishna order. He joined the order in 1993, and in 2003, after 10 years of training, he was initiated into the monastic vows by revered Swami Ranganathananji Maharaj. In 1999, he was posted to Advaita Ashrama at Calcutta, and in 2019, he was appointed as the head of the center. Advaita Ashrama is a unique center envisioned by Swami Vivekananda, which is dedicated to the practice and preaching of Advaita Vedanta. It is also one of the major publishing houses of the Ramakrishna order. Publishing activity is mainly carried out in Calcutta, and the main center is in Mayavati on the lap of the Himalayas. During 27 years of his stay at Advaita Ashrama, the Swamiji has been involved in the publication of several important works dealing with Vedanta, Sri Ramakrishna, and Swami Vivekananda. He has been the chief editor of a number of important books like The Message of Viveka Chudamani, The Message of Brihadaranyaka, Western Admirers of Sri Ramakrishna and his disciples, Swami Vivekananda as the Turning Point, and Hinduism, the Faith Eternal, to mention a few. His special area of interest is the philosophies of Vedanta and Yoga and Hinduism, and also Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. He is a well-known speaker who has addressed audiences all over India. It is to be mentioned here, Swami Vivekananda founded the Advaita Ashrama in Mayavati. Swamiji is now currently the head of the Advaita Ashrama. There is a close relationship between Advaita Ashrama and Swami Vivekananda. So we are very happy, we are blessed to have Swami Shuddhidhanandaji to address us on this auspicious occasion of Swami Vivekananda Jayanti. On the behalf of Ramakrishna Mat, Baswangudi, Bangalore, and also on the behalf of all of you, heartily welcome Swami Shuddhidhanandaji to the ashram and request him to address the gathering.
Jagadbijamadyam Niriham Nirakaram Onkar Vidyam Yato Jayate Paryate Yena Vishvam Tamisham Bhaje Liyate Yatra Vishvam Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharini Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om Tat Sat. My very reverential pranams to Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj. My pranams to all other Swami Atmavidanandaji Maharaj and all other Swamis assembled here. And my pranams to all of you, God in so many forms, Brahman in so many forms, because this is what Swami Vivekananda came to preach. His central idea was to make the humanity understand that everything is essentially divine. So today it's a very wonderful day. Not only in India, all over the world, people are celebrating the birth of this great spiritual phenomenon. Today morning, there was a talk there in Al-Sur Ashram also. So everywhere we see that we have to revisit the life and teachings of this great spiritual master, the greatest spiritual teacher of the modern times. Now, Swami Vivekananda's life and his personality has got several profiles. And every single profile will need at least 1 or 2 sessions to talk about. So in a matter of, say, 35, 40, 45 minutes, all that we can do is look at this phenomenon, one side of this phenomenon. In fact, Vivekananda is such a subject that you can go on and on and on for days together. You can think about his teachings, his personality, his contribution, not only in Indian context, but in the global and the world context. Books have been written, how many? And many more will be written in future, because he is still something which we have not fathomed fully. Humanity will need perhaps several other centuries to fully fathom and measure the depth of what this person has given to humanity. This is a fact. Now, today, I'm going to just focus upon one aspect of Vivekananda's life. What we can learn from his life, essentially from his life. I'm slowly coming to that point. You see, essentially, as human beings, every living being, we have got one instinctual kind of a behavior. And what is this instinctual behavior? Every living being, every human being avoids pain, and we all seek happiness. It's a universal phenomenon. We all want to be free from pain, and we all seek happiness. Every living creature is doing it. As human beings, we are also doing it. Everybody is wanting dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. Now the question is, when we talk about attaining sukham in life. Here comes certain challenges. Our present pursuit of happiness in life, you will see, it is misguided and misdirected. We are looking for happiness at places where, actually speaking, happiness doesn't reside. Yes, we all want to avoid pain. There also, our method of avoiding pain is misdirected and misguided. We don't know the exact method by which we can avoid pain in life and experience happiness. Undiluted, spontaneous experience of happiness. It's a possibility. And we are all seeking that, but we don't know how to do it and where to look for true happiness. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a very wonderful verse which comes in the 2nd chapter, where Sri Krishna says, Nasti buddhirayuktasya, nachayuktasya bhavana, nacha bhavayata shanti, ashantasya kuta sukham. It's a question which Krishna is posing to the entire humanity. A wonderful question. A question is kept before you and me. The last 3 words are very significant. Krishna is asking this question to all of us. My dear children, understand, ashantasya kutah sukham. For a person who is ashanta, see, every word is important. It's all experiential. We are undergoing this experience. Krishna is saying that one who is ashanta, peaceless, how can that person be happy? Is it possible? It's not possible. And why are we peaceless? The preceding words, very pertinent. We are addressing one of the existential problems of every human being. See, I am slowly coming to Swami Vivekananda. What Swami Vivekananda stands for. What are we going to learn from this personality? That is the main point. Question is, ashantasya kutah sukham. A person who is ashantah, how can that person be happy? Krishna says, nasti buddhihi ayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana. He uses one beautiful term, ayukta. Ayukta means one who has not mastered his psychophysical system. Pure science. Now, what we are going to deal with is pure science of self-mastery, of which Vivekananda was a role model. I'm talking about the great venture of mastering one's own self. We all have to become the masters of our own self. That is the very goal of human life. That is the meaning of religion. What else is religion concerned with? So, Krishna says, ayukta. Ayukta is a person who has not mastered his own self. His body, his senses are not under his control. His mind is not under his control. His sense organs are slaves to the so-called tempting and seductive objects of this world. It is continuously running after these objects, unchecked, unbridled. He can't help it. And his mind is running after the sense organs. You can see the chain. Sense organs running after the sense objects, and mind is just running behind the sense organs. It's all turmoil, it's all disturbance, it is all peacelessness. In this side, when the human being goes, when the human being's life and energy is invested in this direction, it is just like, a person falling into a pit or a well which does not have a bottom. I always see this point. It is just like a person, you can just visualize, you can just exercise your imagination. If a person is falling into a well which does not have a bottom, just imagine that person is falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. It is endless. You don't reach anywhere. This is a picture of human beings' energies invested in the direction of the senses, in the direction of this external dimension called world. And in this direction, we want to be happy? Question mark. The entire humanity is running in one direction, in the direction of the senses and the mind, with the expectation that we are going to be happy here. Has anyone ever attained happiness here in this plane? It's a question. Several questions will be posed. It is for us to find out the answers to these questions. So, ayukta is a person who has not mastered his body and the senses. And for this ayukta, Krishna says two things are not possible. Neither buddhi nor bhavana. Buddhi here means wisdom. He will never have the real wisdom. Wisdom is a beautiful term. This person will be devoid of wisdom. A person who has not mastered his mind and the senses, this person will never understand the reality. And he will be devoid of second factor, meditation. He will never be able to meditate. And the second line Krishna says, Nacha bhavayata shanti. And a person who cannot meditate, he will never understand what is shanti. And ashantasya kutha sukham. And a person who doesn't know what shanti is, how can that person be happy? See the sequence. Sri Krishna is presenting a great truth to you and me, all of us. A person's mind which is not under control, his own control. A person who cannot sit quiet for some time and seek the reality which is inside. That person will never understand what is shanti. And a person whose mind is not shanta, a person whose mind is constantly turbulent, in turmoil, in disturbance, how can that person be happy? It is the question of happiness. So, if you just look into the human behavior, presently all our activities, our adventure, our endeavors, that's all in the direction of so-called the senses and the mind. And we want to be happy in this so-called sensory domain. Whatever the senses are revealing to us, this is the only thing we are thinking to be real. And in this dimension, Shankaracharya says in one of his works, in this dimension, this world which we are seeing, which is revealed to the senses and the mind, Shankaracharya says, there is not one drop of happiness here. Iha samsare sukhasya gandha matramapi nasti, he says. It is not only a question of Shankaracharya, all our books. Anityam asukham imam lokam prapya bhajasvama. This lokam, what is revealed to the senses, in this direction, we are not going to get anything. Dukkhalayam, ashashvatam. This is dukkhasya alayam. It is the very abode of dukkham. And it is ashashvatam. It is transient. It is temporary. It will all go away. Now, when we discuss this point from this standpoint, now see, we can, or the spiritual dimension. We can, in a very sweeping manner, we can generalize and say every human being has got these two dimensions. And in this external dimension, the human mind is also involved. This has to be properly understood. External dimension doesn't mean only what we see through the senses. The mind is also external. Very subtle point. Mind is also belonging to the so-called external worldly dimension or material dimension. What we are talking about, the internal dimension, the spiritual dimension, the unchanging dimension, the eternal dimension, which we refer to as God, Ishvara, or whatever it is. We may use any term, doesn't matter. There is one reality which never changes, which is my true nature, which is your true nature, which is everybody's true nature. It is there, existing right here, right now. That is what I'm referring to as internal dimension or non-material dimension. So external dimension is what? It's all material dimension. And internal means that unchanging, not material dimension. Now the basic principle of human life, the secret of happiness lies in this point. Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj, one of the great Mahatmas of this order, he used to always say this point. You know, all the best things of life comes from the non-physical, non-material dimension of human personality. It is worth writing it down. It's the secret of everything good that we are seeking in human life. He says that everything, all the good things that we are seeking in life, it doesn't come from the material dimension or the external dimension. It comes from the non-physical, non-material dimension of the human personality. Now, here we are going to now look upon Swami Vivekananda from this standpoint. It's very important. Now see, you can search for happiness in the material dimension, as the entire human race is doing all over the world. People are running after the different good things of life, the material things of life. And in spite of all getting these things, is the human being happy? Is the human being fulfilled? It's a big question. Can money make the human being happy? A big question. Money is needed. It's very important. Poverty is sin. Poverty is crime. No one should be poor. Everyone should be rich. But money alone cannot be the goal of human life. Again, I repeat, economics, it's important. Money is important. Abhyudaya is important. Material glory is important. But material glory alone cannot bring happiness to the human soul. It's not possible. It is an eternal verdict given by the rishis of the Upanishads. It's not possible. If money alone can give you happiness, in that case, the richest countries in the world today, those societies must be the most happiest people. Is it a fact? If you just look into the statistics, you will see that the so-called the richest countries in the world, there in these societies, the instances of psychological ailments are seen to be the highest. What has money to do with happiness? Happiness comes from a totally different dimension. That is the internal dimension, the non-material dimension which is inside each one of us. Now let us look into the life of Swami Vivekananda. I just wanted to build this basic background that we have to look upon Swami Vivekananda's different incidents from his lives. If you just read, definitely all of you have read Swami Vivekananda's life. I know usually we read it once and we think that we have known. It is not the question of knowing just the events and incidents. We have to read and reread. It is not the question of just knowing the certain events, this happened this time, this happened this time. In fact, it is very simple to understand Swami Vivekananda's life, or not only Swami Vivekananda, any of these spiritual personalities. They actually demonstrate one thing. And what is that Swami Vivekananda's life is demonstrating? Swami Vivekananda's life is demonstrating one, and only one thing. The tremendous significance and importance of the internal dimension. The indispensable factor of the so-called non-material dimension. Unless we pay attention to this non-material dimension, internal dimension, human being can never be happy. That is what Swami Vivekananda stands for. The glory of the internal dimension, which we are referring to as God or spirituality or whatever it is. You see, in the history of humanity, whenever human beings completely drown themselves, bury themselves in the material plane, then some great spiritual phenomenon has to come. They appear to once again show us the way. My dear children, by burying inside the material dimension, you are not going to get anything. The real gems which you're looking for, it is in the non-material dimension. And they show it in their lives. That is what Vivekananda's life stands for. So it is not the question of just reading Swami Vivekananda's life just once. We have to read it, reread it. 25 years back, 30 years back, when I first read Swami Vivekananda's life, I understood it in one way. Today, after 30, 40 years, when I am reading his life, I am seeing something different. What happened? It is the same life. Vivekananda's life has not changed, but my mind has evolved. As my mind keeps on evolving, I understand those very events in a deeper manner, in a different manner. The incidents of Swami Vivekananda's life, it now tells us something more than what I used to understand 35, 40 years back. So it is very important for all of us to read and reread and revisit the lives of these great masters, because as our mind go on evolving, we begin to understand them in a deeper manner. Now, let us just look into some of the events and incidents from Swami Vivekananda's life from this standpoint. What is the standpoint? The importance of the so-called internal dimension, the non-material dimension of human personality. Now see, Swami Vivekananda, by birth, he was a dhyana siddha. We all know this. All those who have read Swami Vivekananda's life. He was a dhyana siddha. He was a born meditator, a perfected person in the art of meditation. For him, meditation was a matter of play. We struggle and struggle and struggle for years together. We come nowhere closer to what meditation is. Dhyana is only a word for us. In fact, when we sit down to meditate, we know what happens. We are in a battlefield. And in fact, the battle becomes more intense when we sit down for meditation. Otherwise, it seems to be we are all quite peaceful. But when you sit down for meditation, the peacelessness and the turmoil becomes most intense. And we struggle and struggle and struggle. And after all, we become frustrated and we get up from the asana. Now see, it shows us the importance of something which is inside. Mind which is not trained in the direction of investigating what is inside, we are really speaking absolutely miserable. This Naren, he was a dhyana siddha. Even as a small boy, he had perfected in the art of meditation. He was born with that talent. Having listened from his mother wonderful stories of Ramayana, there was a time when Sri Ram, Bhagavan Ram was his role model. And whatever this boy takes, he would be fully drowning himself into it. So it's a quality of the human mind. So focused, concentrated, never scattered. See, I'm talking about certain qualities which we have to acquire, which we have to focus upon. If we are spiritual aspirants, then these are the things which really matter. And it is going to tell upon the quality of your life and my life. More this mind becomes focused, one-pointed, proper trained and mastered, the real happiness we begin to experience. See, we are discussing the whole thing from the standpoint of this attainment of the true happiness which everyone is looking for. So Swami Vivekananda, Naren, as a small boy, there was a time when for him, Bhagavan Ram was everything. And he had taken him as his ideal and role model, and he used to meditate on Bhagavan Ram. As a small boy, maybe just 4 years or 5 years, maybe. And once it so happened that he was meditating on the top floor of his house, and for several hours, he was lost in meditation, and the door was closed. And his parents and other relatives, they were all looking for, where is Naren, where is Naren? Nobody knows where this boy is. He is lost in a different world. Now you see, this person, what is this meditation? In a perfected state of meditation, we become totally oblivious of the presence of the so-called external dimension. See, I refer to this point. There are two dimensions to this human personality. One is what is revealed by the senses, and other, what transcends the sensory plane. Two dimensions, it is very important. Very significant for our sadhana also. This boy, Naren, in that meditation, he is cut off from the so-called the world which is revealed to the senses. He is totally absorbed and drowned in that non-material dimension of the human personality. A lesson to learn. Swami Vivekananda's every incident you will see, it is telling us the importance of the non-material dimension, the internal dimension of the human personality. This is what we have to learn from this person. Another time, once as a boy, they were all playing. Swami Naren used to play. They used to play meditation, you know. These boys would sit down, eyes closed, and all of the boys would try to meditate. You know, boys, as it is, children are very restless, and unable to meditate, they would just get up after 5 minutes and run away. But within few moments, this Naren would be absorbed in that internal dimension. And once it so happened that a snake came, and all other boys, they ran away, fearing the snake, and this boy was completely absorbed in meditation. The snake came and snake went off. He was absolutely unaware of what is going on. The importance of the internal dimension of personality. This is what we have to learn from this person, that this practice of internalizing our awareness, an awareness which is always externalized, with no rooting and no practice of internalizing it, we are in a very bad state. It's a very, very great predicament of the human being. We are talking about happiness in life. No one can be happy unless we learn to balance our energies between externalized and internalized energies. There has to be a proper balance between what we are doing outward, and there should be a practice, a constant, a regular, perseverant way of going inward. It is this balanced way of life which will give us a taste of true happiness in life. This is what we have to learn from Swami Vivekananda's personality. Another incident. As this Naren grew up slowly, we all know, as a young man, he went to school, college, where, again, see, as we enter the teenage, all of us, we go through a certain period of conflict, internal conflict. It will come to everyone, especially those who are sensitive to religious things. This very Naren, who was introduced to all religious ideas by his mother, extremely pious mother, a mother who herself was rooted in this so-called non-material dimension in God, from whom Naren had heard all these wonderful things about spirituality and religion. And Naren had taken all those things, imbibed. He was full of those ideas. But as soon as he went to the college, where he was introduced to Western physical science, Western sciences, Western philosophy, Western history, Western logic, Western psychology, all Western. And one problem with all this Western framework is that it is all material. They only deal with what the senses reveal. No problem. Now see, we all have gone through this education system. Our present education system, again, these are all connected factors. Our present education system, if you just look into it, it is all dealing with what the senses are revealing to us. Is this the whole of the story? It is a question we have to ask. What are we giving to our children? We are all giving only half of the story to our children. The complete story is not being placed before them. So Naren, when he went to the college, the same predicament, suddenly introduced to Western sciences, where there is no mention of anything non-material. This alone is real, this alone is real, this alone is real. Whatever the senses are revealing, this alone is real. And in this situation, anybody who is sensitive to religious things, a conflict will begin to rage in his mind. Then whatever I studied, whatever I heard from my mother, God, spirituality, religion, is it really true? Does God really exist? Or is it just a figment of human imagination? This conflict is bound to come into any person who is sensitive to a spiritual thing, but at the same time, who is introduced to this materialistic so-called education system. This question will come in our mind, whether God really exists or not, or is he just a figment of human imagination? Naren went through this phase. He was asking, desperately seeking answers, whether this internal dimension which we are talking about. See, this is the current day problem also. I come across any number of young people, all brilliant boys and girls, educated in this so-called modern education system, which only teaches about this material dimension, this material dimension, this material dimension. Automatically they come with the doubt, Swamiji, does God really exist? How pertinent that question is. See, we are talking about Swami Vivekananda and what we can learn from his life. The question is this spiritual dimension an imaginary thing or is it really existing? If you go by just our present-day education system, definitely we will turn out to be atheists. And this is the problem with our present young generation who are introduced only to this dimension. And they look upon everything from the angle of physics and chemistry and biology, nothing else. Yes, this is true. This is the partial reality. Is this the whole of reality? The same predicament this young man, Naren, also went through. And with this tremendous struggle in his mind, he is coming to the master of the spiritual realm. An absolutely unlettered person who never had any so-called modern education in his life. That mad Brahmin called Sri Ramakrishna, who never went to school, who was never introduced to so-called Western materialistic sciences, and who was the master of the so-called the non-material internal dimension. See, we are discussing about the importance of the internal dimension by studying the life of Swami Vivekananda. Naren goes to Sri Ramakrishna with this very question, and having failed to get answers to his question, he had knocked several doors in Calcutta. Sir, have you seen God? Have you seen God? All the so-called well-known intellectuals of his time. But what can intellectuals tell? Intellectuals are intellectuals. We make a big fuss of intellectuality. Spirituality is much, much beyond the intellectual realm. So, having failed to get any answer from all the so-called well-known academicians and intellectuals of his time, finally Naren lands up at the feet of this absolutely unlettered and uneducated in the so-called modern academic sense. He was the only educated person in the world, I can say. And all others, those who have gone to schools and colleges with so many degrees, where is the real education? Swamiji says the real education has not even started in this world. Vivekananda's words. In one context, Swamiji says, the real education, where is the real education existing? Even today, it is not there, nowhere. And if at all anywhere real education existed, it existed only in this Punya Bhumi called Bharat, which we have happily rejected. And what is that real education system? Our Gurukula Vasa education system, which was a perfect blend of the material dimension and the non-material dimension. What is education without introducing the non-material dimension? Educating our children only about the material things, are we really making them fit to face the challenges of life? We are making them handicaps, literally handicaps. That is why at the age of 30 and 40, you will find the youngsters totally in darkness. Life totally unstable, unsteady, confused, depressed, morose. Why? The real life source has not been introduced to them. See, I'm talking about the relevance of Swami Vivekananda's personality. It is the significance and importance of the internal dimension. Without touching this dimension, human being is nothing. This is what we have to learn from this great personality. Coming back to that same incident. With this question, Naren is coming to Sri Ramakrishna and posing this question. Sir, have you seen God? No. Straight comes the answer. Have you seen God means what? Have you experienced this non-material dimension? That is God. God is just a word. You may use any word, doesn't matter. Ishvara, Bhagavan, whatever is. Brahman is also just a word. There is one reality which is unchanging, which is the source of all sukham which we are searching. See, we started this talk with the topic of sukham. Where is sukham? In sense organs? In mind? in what the senses are revealing? Impossible. It can never come. Sukham comes from that non-material internal dimension, the unchanging dimension. You call it by whichever name, doesn't matter. Names are names. Names also belong to the external dimension. All the names which we are using, it is all belonging to the external dimension. That thing is nameless. You can't actually capture it by any name. This is what our great rishis have taught us. So, about that, this unlettered person says, yes, my boy, I have seen it. I have experienced it. And I am experiencing it 1,000 times more intensely than I am experiencing you through the sense organs. Pure Vedanta. One is Pratyaksham and Indriyanubhuti, other is Atindriya, Aparokshanubhuti. Sri Ramakrishna says, I am experiencing it more intensely than what I am experiencing through the senses. Importance and significance of that dimension. Today we may not be aware of it. Many students here, youngsters, may be having a doubt about it. Why we have to revisit Swami Vivekananda's life? To gain this conviction about, yes, asti kaschit swayam nityam, aham pratyayalambana. Asti, yes, there is one thing, as Shankaracharya says. We may not be knowing it now, but it is there. You can't deny it. You cannot deny your own self. It is impossible. You will be able to deny this entire world, but you won't be able to deny your own self. It is that true self is what we are referring to as God. And that is a matter of direct perception and experience through a certain ways. Importance of the internal spiritual dimension. Sri Ramakrishna's answer was not only for Naren, it was meant for the entire humanity, which is doubting about the existence of the internal dimension. That is the importance of that answer. Entire modern race, nurtured, groomed in physical sciences, which teaches only this matter to be reality. Here comes a great teacher who tells, no, the reality is non-material and it can be experienced. This is what we learn from this particular incident. Very important incident. It is an answer given by this great spiritual master to the entire human race. That is why it is said that no one can read Sri Ramakrishna's life without being convinced that God alone is the reality, everything else is illusory. Somebody has said this beautifully. In this way, you see, you can go on and on. How much time do I have till 6:30? 6:30, no? Fine. One more incident, then I'll go back. Now, on that day, the first visit to Sri Ramakrishna, Naren, he himself was totally overtaken by this Sri Ramakrishna's personality. He couldn't fully understand what is the meaning of, yes, it is existing and it can be experienced and all those things. But one thing, Naren was totally captivated by Sri Ramakrishna's purity and that renunciation. That blazing renunciation and purity of this person, Naren was totally overpowered by that. And overpowered by that, Naren comes back again, the second visit. In the second visit also, one incident takes place when Sri Ramakrishna touches Naren. I'm not going into the details of the story because of lack of time. I have to touch upon a few other points. Second event also, same thing happens. Sri Ramakrishna touches Naren, and what happens? This external world to which we are all so much glued to, this external world begins to literally vanish. This entire world begins to go round and round, disappearing into a vacuum. Naren was literally experiencing this, the significance and experience of the internal dimension. This is what we have to understand. What we are seeing through the senses, do not ever think that this is the whole of the thing. This is just a drop in the ocean of existence. The real thing which we are actually looking for, it is beyond the senses, it is beyond the mind. That is what Swami Vivekananda stands for. He teaches us, unless we pursue it, unless we seek it, life is absolutely unfulfilled and wasted life. Now, in this way, we can take up several such incidents from Naren's life. And one more incident, I'm not going into the details of that. You know, this greatest teacher of Advaita Vedanta, Swami Vivekananda, In the modern times, Swami Vivekananda is the greatest Acharya, Yugacharya, who taught to the humanity only one thing, the non-dual divinity, the divine nature of every man, the divine nature of every woman. Everybody is divine. Every man is divine. Every woman is divine. Everything is divine. Divinity alone is actually existing. The idea that anything else is existing from that is owing to avidya and ignorance. Brahman alone is actually existing. I'm talking about actual existence. Apparent existence is a different thing. Actually, in all of our experiences, what is existing is Brahman and Brahman alone. This is the great teaching of the Upanishads, and Swami Vivekananda was the greatest teacher of this position, the position of non-dualism. There was a time in his life when he was the hardcore opponent of this idea of non-dualism. That's another very fascinating chapter from Swami Vivekananda's life. He was an hardcore opponent of this idea. And it is Sri Ramakrishna who made him experience this reality. I'm not going into the details of that for lack of time. Again, what is this non-dualism? The significance of the non-material dimension. This is the one thing that we have to learn. There is a dimension inside each one of us which is not known to us now. Definitely it is not known to us because we are completely buried in the opposite direction. How are we going to know it? Unless we begin to change the direction of our energies and invest our energies in the direction of what is inside, we will never come to know about it. That is what is spiritual life, and that is what is sadhana, and this is what we have to learn from this great personality called Swami Vivekananda. Now, let us come to the other dimension of this personality. Swami Vivekananda's every incident, you can look at it from this standpoint. This is what I said. Today I am going to present Vivekananda to learn the lesson of the importance of the non-material dimension of the human personality. Now the consequences of this, let us now look into that. Now any person who comes closer to this non-material dimension, this internal dimension, something wonderful, irreversible, radical transformation happens to that person. Now this is waiting to happen in everybody's life. It only depends how much energy we are investing in that direction, that's all. It is waiting to happen in every human being's life. Actually speaking, we have no other alternative. You may waste your time, hundreds of lifetimes in this direction. Someday or the other, you will have to come back and fall back on this non-material dimension. It is only a matter of time. This life, next life, 100 lives later, in some life or the other, ultimately this soul has to fall back upon that which is non-material. We have no other alternative. This is the only thing that we have to do. The earlier we do, the better. Now, when we have this knowledge of what is inside, experiential knowledge I'm talking about, this brings about something wonderful, wonderful changes. The first outcome of this is what? Now, what we started our talk with, we will understand what is true happiness. This person is spontaneously happy. Happy not because he has got money. Happy not because he has got good things of life. Whether good things of life are there or not. Whether money is there or not. He is spontaneously happy. Now you look into the personalities of Sri Ramakrishna or any of these great saints, not only Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharshi, any of these great masters, Shankaracharya, Vivekananda, whom we hold as great masters, Buddha, all of them, what do we find in them? They are naturally in a state of fulfillment. Now this fulfillment is something which is waiting to come into our lives. Only if we pay attention to it, that is the main thing. So the first outcome of this great movement towards the internal dimension is what? The person begins to experience fulfillment. Purnata, the experience of being filled up with that which is actually existing. You call it God, you call it Bhagavan, you call it Brahman, doesn't matter. It is a matter of experience. That person's life becomes steady, strong. All weaknesses go away. A tremendous stability comes into that life. Why are we so unstable here? It is only because of our distancing from our own true nature. Vivekananda represents this great phenomenon. The the more and more inside, you see how wonderful these developments and changes are waiting to happen in our lives. It is going to happen. Second point, very important point. What is that? The more we go inward and we come closer to this reality, that person will begin to see himself in everybody. He will begin to see the one reality in everybody. He will begin to see that one divinity in so many forms. He or she will begin to see God, one God in so many forms. This itself becomes the form of God. What are the form of God? According to the Upanishad, this itself is the form of God. It is Saguna Brahman. Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha mai pashyati. This pashyati, darshanam, one who sees me in everything and everything in me. This is the vision. This is the climax of evolution of the human being. We are evolving in which direction? In the material direction? That is not evolution, that is degeneration. If you bury yourself in the material dimension, we are not evolving, we are degenerating. We are disintegrating. That is not integration. Real integration comes when we begin to evolve in the direction of non-material dimension. Swami Vivekananda stands for this evolution. We all have to evolve in that direction of the non-material dimension, which we are referring to as God. Then this person will begin to see himself in everybody. Now comes the greatest climax of this evolution. When you begin to see yourself in everybody, you will begin to feel the pain and happiness of everybody. Vivekananda was a blazing demonstration of this phenomenon. Just look into his life. Now, after his master's Mahasamadhi, Sri Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi, we all know he went throughout the length and breadth of India, and finally he came to Kanyakumari, that Kanyakumari rock, where he meditated for 3 nights and 3 days. And what was his object of meditation? He was not meditating on God. He was meditating on his motherland, India, this Punya Bhumi, Bharat. And what was he seeing? He had gone through the length and breadth of this land, and he had seen that India was being inhabited by 30 crore half-naked men and women. And his heart would literally bleed, and he would literally weep seeing our brothers and sisters in this pathetic state. That feeling of oneness. Now see, we are talking about when you come in touch with this internal dimension, you will begin to feel oneness with everybody. This is the climax of the evolution of the human being. When we begin to feel one with everybody, then everybody is our own self. No one is a stranger here. This entire humanity is one family. This is the great teaching of the Vedas, which Swami Vivekananda stands for, Ramakrishna stands for, all the great sages of the so-called Hindu Dharma stands for. They give this message that this entire humanity is one family. Family not in a genetic sense. In the sense we are all united by that one divine entity called God. Now this is the climax of that human evolution. In Vivekananda we can find, I always say, Vivekananda is the blend of two things. He is a blend of intense pride blended with intense pain. A strange kind of a mixture. Intense pride for what? Pride for his motherland. Whenever he would talk about India, his chest would swell with pride. That thumping pride with which he spoke about India and Hinduism in Chicago Parliament of Religions, it's a history now. It is not a page of history. We have to derive that spirit from that even. Every Indian should feel that pride within himself. We are all Indians first, and the great glory of Hindu Sanatana Dharma. Amazing. I always say that Chicago Parliament of Religions, it was an explosion. It was an explosion of Indian pride and Hindu Dharma pride. Literally, Vivekananda exploded like a bomb. An explosion of pride in what Hindu Dharma is. The whole world was made to sit up and understand the glory of what Hindu Dharma is. And take India seriously. That was the turning point as far as India's future is concerned. Today in 2025, we are seeing India has come to a point where it is the 3rd or the 4th largest economy in the world. From where did all this even start? It started from that day when Vivekananda exploded on that Parliament of Religions at Chicago. That was the turning point. So the question is, what is that we are going to learn from this great personality? And all this is happening owing to his association with the non-material dimension of the human personality. Is Vivekananda's awareness buried in the material dimension? Nowhere. That is what I'm asking you to revisit Vivekananda's life and look at every incident. Every incident from Vivekananda's life is depicting only one thing: the significance and importance of being connected with this so-called non-material dimension of the human personality and its consequences. Irreversible consequences. What happens? Wonderful. Now, we can go on. Finally, one thing. This Vivekananda gave a motto to the humanity. Just imagine, I have sometimes wondered, Vivekananda was a madman, and we should all have that madness. 1 ounce of that madness in our life will change us to be great men and women. 1 ounce of that madness. He was literally a madman. He had only one concern: to uplift the entire humanity. Make them understand the importance of the non-material dimension. It is only when we come in touch with that, we will become truly human, beautiful human beings. Buried in the material dimension, we are all disintegrated, we are all fragmented, we degenerate. We have to regenerate ourselves, and Vivekananda stands as a role model. That's why Vivekananda in England, he says, I have 2 more minutes. I'm just looking at the clock. 2 more minutes, finally. Vivekananda in England, he says, beautiful. What a daring sannyasi he was. He dared to change the destiny of India, himself not having 1 penny in his pocket. He is thinking that I will go to America, I will bring money from there, and I will work for my people. Why? That oneness with everybody. That oneness which comes when you are in touch with this non-material dimension of the human personality. Can we have that spirit to do something for our people? That was Vivekananda. So, in 1895 or 96, from England, he makes a statement. He says, you see, in America, I have just started my work. I have just raised 1 or 2 waves. We have to raise a tidal wave. The society has to be turned upside down. The world has to be given a new civilization. Swamiji says, this penniless monk is saying that the world has to be given a new civilization. Can you imagine his vision and foresight? What he's visualizing in the future? He wants this entire humanity to have a new civilization. And what is this new civilization is going to be based upon? It is going to be based upon the non-material dimension of the human personality, spirituality, God. Unless this non-material dimension comes into our human life is all in vain. This is what this great personality called Vivekananda stands for. Ultimately, he gave a beautiful motto to the humanity. We all know that very well. Atmano mokshartham jagatitaicha. This human birth is meant for experiencing this non-material dimension. And when you do that, you will dedicate your life for the well-being of everybody. Thank you so much.
Swami Vivekananda represents the struggle of a human being to fathom the internal dimension, that is non-material dimension of his or her personality. There are several life lessons we can learn from Swamiji's dynamic life. Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj, in his insightful and most inspiring, eloquent speech, brought out effectively the relevance and significance of the life of Swami Vivekananda to modern men and women groping in the darkness of sensuality and worldliness. We are profoundly grateful to Swami Shuddhidhanandaji Maharaj for his excellent portrayal of Swami Vivekananda's universal personality in the backdrop of teachings of the Upanishad, the ancient texts of Vedanta. Really, Swamiji, the devotees of this ashrama are really fortunate or blessed to have you in this blessed occasion of Swami Vivekananda's Jayanthi. In fact, we invited Swamiji 2-3 times, but he couldn't come. Really, we are very fortunate to have him on this blessed day, blissful moments on this blessed day. On the behalf of the ashrama, Ramakrishna Mat, Bengaluru, Basavangudi, Bengaluru, and the behalf of the hundreds of devotees assembled here, we are really grateful, Swamiji. We are very thankful for your presence and eloquent address to the devotees and one and all. Thank you very much, Swamiji. Thank you very much. A small announcement. The Arati, evening Arati, Sandhyarati will commence at 6:45. Those who want to meet Swamiji, they are better to meet him in the Sharda Devi Memorial Hall. That there is a space for it. There is a veranda. Please don't gather in front of the temple or here, please. Priyatam Pundari Kakshaha Sarvayajneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prinite Prinitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki, Jai Shri Mahamai ki, Jai Shri Swamiji Maharaj Ji ki, Jai.